want to talk about some realities about how people think about human rights in Africa. We probably can see if there is a possibility of 2048 or not by knowing what happened in Africa, because Africa are facing many basic living problems. If they are not out of poverty, it's hard to make 2048 come true. Tell me more about human rights and its problems in Africa.
Well, Daisy, I'm not going to tell you everything about human rights in Africa because, in the real sense, I don't know everything about that. But as an African and somebody living in it, somebody from Africa and somebody living in everything good, in the good or the bad things that are happening in Africa, I think I will give my own point of view and my feelings about human rights in Africa. And when we talk about human rights in Africa, I ask myself, what is this human rights all about? And where is it? Is it the right to peace or wars? I think the introduction of this human rights, which I think it doesn't even exist, have partly accounted for the political instability across the continent. Africa, being an extremely heterogeneous continent, faces a lot of problems of human rights abuses, from genocide, slavery, mass disappearances, and torture to denial of freedom of speech. This is just another Western notion which I consider to be a weapon against Africa, so that the West will continue to take advantage over our natural resources. They are done with Africa, I think. Now, they are looking forward to China because they know what China is doing and what they are going to be in the future. And they are also seeing the relationship that China is trying to create with Africa. And I think they are not happy about it. They take away Africans' natural resources to give better life back home to their people who don't even work. I don't think if it is a right idea for the government to give everything to its citizens, social security, even give them salaries, everything free. It makes many people don't even need to work. They don't even want to work. I think it promotes a lot of laziness within the country. If we want to compare this, or if we look at the life of people in Africa, there are people who work all day in Africa, people who really labor every day. But to earn a single meal from their labor is a big problem. It's really not easy. But there are people in Western countries who don't even work, but they have enough to eat. They have enough clothes to wear. They have enough medical and social facilities to enjoy. I think it's really painful and really unfair. So, there is a lot of pain in the hearts of Africans, because what Africans benefit from the Western colonization is just pain, is betrayal, is slavery, and torture. The introduction of human rights in Africa went with many human rights organizations, I think. For example, like the Amnesty International, which I know in Cameroon. They are there, they claim to be protecting the rights of the locals, which they do virtually nothing than filling their diaries with news and stories on human rights abuses in Africa. The local African population, even some government officials, seem not to understand what is human rights and how it should be handled or treated. People know that, people out there know that. They have to fight, and to fight is use weapons. Fight against the government, kill people in order to gain their own rights. And I can say maybe it's the way they were trained by the colonial masters, because during colonization, the colonial masters, the Europeans, they used a lot of force, they used arms they use a lot of force in order to capture the Africans. They torture them, they use weapons to threaten them, they kill some of them. So I think it's in the mind of the Africans, and it's still living in the minds of the Africans, that for you to gain something, you need to use force. And the force you need to use is to use weapons to fight, kill people, shed blood, you know. And this is why there is a lot of political instability, civil wars in Africa, everyday people dying, things like that, you know. So in my mind, I think there is no human rights. Nothing like human rights in Africa. And there are no human rights organizations trying to protect the rights of those who are dying in Africa. They are just making big names in the world. Thank you very much.
Is it, it's really painful to hear some Africa don't want to call their country homes. How do you think about your home?
Well, really it's painful. It's really painful to hear people, especially Africans, don't want to call their home. But to me, I am very, very proud to be an African, and a Cameroonian in particular. And in my mind, I think all Africans are supposed to be proud of this. They are really supposed to be proud of it. No matter the present political instability going on out there, no matter the underdevelopment, no matter the economic problems that they are facing, I think it's still a pride to be an African. Africa is not going to end the way it is now. In future, things will change. Sometimes, somebody might hide his identity, his or her identity. I'm not from Africa because he or she wants to gain something from somewhere, you know. I don't want to quote examples. I know many things happen like that in this world. Many people, sometimes they deny their identity, they hide their identity. Their real identity is to be Africans because they want to achieve something, you know. It's a way to survive. It's just a way to survive. But in their heart, even if they say I'm not African, in their heart, they know and they are proud and very, very strong in their souls. And they know that they are Africans and they are proud of it. But when it comes to gaining something or benefiting something, they can say, I am not African, or they can hide their identity. So that's what I think. I think all Africans are really proud to be Africans. Thank you.
So how Cameroonians think about their human rights? What's the best way to do to help local people in your mind?
Well, helping local people, in my mind, you know, this is Cameroon, and this is my country. This is where I come from. Yeah. Besides being the most peaceful country in Africa, Cameroon is also named Africa in miniature by geographers. The only thing we enjoy in Cameroon is peace, and every Cameroonian is proud of this. But in terms of development, in terms of economic problems, Cameroon, like any other African country, is still facing a lot of problems. Cameroonians are other-loving and peace-loving people, though sometimes their leniencies are being taken for granted by government or some government officials. However, as I said before, there are some human rights organizations that do nothing to protect the rights of the unprotected, which I think their job out there is to protect the rights of the people, those who need them. But all they do, I think, I don't know, maybe the whole thing going on, the whole mess going on in Africa just help them to carry out their researches and write books and make stories on the news, on the TV, on the internet, and on the radio, things like that. I don't really know what is going on. But they don't really care much about people. They are not really fighting or protecting the rights of the local people. The British, if I have to go back to colonization, you know, the British and the French colonization in Cameroon has made a huge impact in the quality of wealth and technology. Cameroon is facing a lot of political problems, corruption, mismanagement of public funds. Concerning AIDS,